people online, obviously, when this was first announced, they're like, oh my God, this could be Evolution 2.0.
I think what stood out to me the most would be
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Culture Mania. I am here with the baddest man on the planet from the 407 to the 575. I am here with Mr. Jon Connor.
yes, sir. Let's get it, Culture Mania. We back. This is week 2, correct?
Well, this is week 2.
So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for rocking with us. And yeah, let's talk some pro wrestling, man.
So, this week, WrestleMania is over. Everybody's giving their ideas about what happened during the show. But of course, WrestleMania week technically isn't done, as we have the first Monday after WrestleMania and the first Friday after WrestleMania. The first Monday after WrestleMania featured some very interesting things. We got to see a return and somebody actually make their Monday Night Raw debut. What on Monday stood out to you the most, sir?
I think what stood out to me the most would be Braun Breaker becoming a Paul Heyman guy. Is something that I didn't see coming, but I'm glad that it happened. I think Braun Breaker was already on a certain trajectory to becoming a megastar because the dude already a star. Like some people are just born with that star quality,
Mhm.
and I feel like Braun Breaker already has it. So not to say that he needed a Paul Heyman or a Seth Rollins to give him the rub, but I think that it just puts eyes on Braun Breaker, more eyes on Braun Breaker at a more accelerated pace, and I think he deserves that. I think every time that they put Braun Breaker in a situation where he has to show the world if he's a star or not, I think he knocks it out the park. So I think that it surprised me, but it was surprised in a good way. I think that I don't see anything bad coming out of Braun Breaker being a Paul Heyman guy and standing next to Seth Rollins. Now, the interesting thing, and all due respect to everything that Seth Rollins has done, but when a Seth Rollins stands next to a Braun Breaker, now are we in a situation where Braun Breaker possibly outshines Seth Rollins? Are we in a situation where like what or is has Seth accepted that he's the elder statesman and he's doing it so that one day it does lead into a Seth Rollins Braun Breaker feud where he can elevate the talent? Is Seth Rollins at a point now where he's like, you know what? My young days are gone. I'm now stepping into that position where I'm the elder statesman, and now I'm well aware of the star, the young star that I'm standing next to. Not unlike a Farouk Ron Simmons standing next to a young Rocky Maivia, where it wasn't so much about Ron Simmons being elevated anymore. It was okay. We'll let Dwayne Johnson stand next to Ron Simmons to put eyes on him because we know where this kid is about to go. And maybe that's where Seth is at with Braun Breaker, where he's like, you know what? Come over here, get the rub because I see that you're the future and I just want to be a part of elevating you to that next level. So I'm just excited to see where that goes.
So I like that we opened up with this with the biggest part of Monday Night Raw, which is the Paul Heyman having another group of guys.
Mm.
One thing I do like is that you have the idea of okay, cool, they're gonna elevate Braun. People online, obviously, when this was first announced, they're like, oh my God, this could be Evolution 2.0. This could be this. You know, Ric Flair was there. Paulie Dangerously could be what Rick was. And then you have Seth filling the role of Triple H. Now you have Braun filling the role of Orton, who could fill the role of Batista. And I think with the return that just came back, and he's going to need something to get over to stay relevant in the WWE. I think either adding Miro or separating Theory and Waller and have Theory come in, and I think that's going to be a very
Wow.
brandable group. I think that'd be a
I
very
would be so happy for Austin Theory if that was the case. I'd be happy for Grayson Waller if that was the case. I think both of those dudes are very underrated. I think that on the mic they're dope. I think their in-ring work is solid. I always am entertained whenever they on TV. I never feel like go away. I'm always entertained by those two. So if that is the case, That would be beautiful. That would be amazing. I hadn't heard that, so that is amazing. One rumor I heard too is possibly Becky Lynch, because she just turned heel, possibly joining that faction as well, because her and her husband Seth Rollins are both heels now. So I'm 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 looking forward to whatever happens with this faction, because it's been a while since we had a faction that truly captivated us, aside from the bloodline, you know what I'm saying? But a faction that was must see TV, that you wanted to tune in every week to see the evolution, no pun intended, of that of that faction. So I'm looking forward to this new Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins faction.
And I agree with you. It has been a while, and I did see that. Becky Lynch could be potentially the first Paul Heyman girl, because we've only ever had Paul Heyman guys.
Mhm.
Um, to actually, be in wrestling, this would be amazing. It'd be great. Overall, though, it's gonna keep us wondering, and we kind of already know where it's going. With all right, you have Seth, you have Braun. Are they're going to face Roman and Punk? Can Roman and Punk work together the same way could Roman and Cody work together last year at Bad Blood? What's going to happen? Paul Heyman or CM Punk doesn't really care much about Roman at this point. He just wants to get his karma back on Paul Heyman. For we're gonna get to see these unique matchups where we could see CM Punk versus Braun Breaker. We could see CM Punk versus Rollins again, Roman versus Braun. This is gonna be those weird points where we get to where we're like, okay, cool. We kind of know you know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be wonderful. It's
Yes.
going to be those things where we're like, all right, cool. This, if nothing else on the card sold me, it's going to be this. And I think that we're going to get our first little taste at Backlash. I saw somebody post the Backlash poster, because they did the old retro one with
Hmm.
Rock and Cena, or with Cena. They have it Cena and Randy right now, but it was AJ and somebody back in the day when it had the blue streak. And they did, what if it's Paul, Seth, Braun, and even Carmelo? And I didn't even think of that. I was like, that'd be kind of cool too, is to bring Carmelo
Mm.
Hayes, who's currently not doing anything. I mean, he's tag teaming with the Miz, but that's not that everybody tag teams with the Miz. Um,
Right, right,
no disrespect to the Miz. I would love to talk to the Miz, but everybody, like, that's kind of where you go at this point. And Mike and Miz seems very okay with it. But to bring Carmelo on there, and then you're like, all right, cool. So you have your smooth talker with Carmelo, you have your dog in him with Braun, you have the guy that everybody loves to hate on with Seth, and then you have the actual, the main focal point, which is Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, ironically enough. So I think that's going to be cool. I really do hope they add, another guy into it, so that it's not just Seth and Braun competing for the tags and competing for
right.
singles. I want that third guy. And who would that third guy in your mind be?
I wasn't mad when you said Austin Theory, and possibly Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. I wouldn't be mad at Carmelo Hayes. I wouldn't be mad if they brought up Trick Williams from NXT. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad. Because I come from the era of factions, man. I grew up, I'm an 80s baby, so I grew up in the era of the Four Horsemen, the Dangerous Alliance, the Heenan family. I grew up in the era of Degeneration X, the Nation of Domination, Right to Censor, the oddities, like just all of these different factions. And like they say in pro wrestling, the goal when you come up with a faction is to hope that you make or create at least one megastar. And if you're lucky, you get a couple people that become megastars out of the faction situation. So I don't know specifically like who I would like to see. I know there's a lot of names that I wouldn't be mad at, that I feel like deserve to have more eyes on them. And but I think I like the names that you brought up. You know what I mean? Because Carmelo Hayes and the matches he had with Andrade on SmackDown when they were doing the best of seven series, instant classics. I feel like those were WrestleMania worthy matches. I feel like every time you see Carmelo on TV, he always delivers. He got charisma. He nice with his in ring work. So everybody you named, I feel like deserves that opportunity. And it could be some people, waiting in the wings that deserve it. That maybe behind the curtain has a potential that we haven't seen yet. That maybe Triple H got his finger on the pulse of. So I'm just looking forward to see who next.
And yeah, because and I was a Carmelo guy more than I was a Braun Breaker guy. I have both their figures though. I mean, I love them both. So I've been a big Carmelo guy. I have always thought that he deserves a lot more than what he's getting currently, and I understand, we get into the point past I say once we get past SummerSlam, people are just going to get lost in the shuffle, and that's okay because everybody want the megastars are already being built. You already know what's going to happen, or like kind of what's going to happen. You already can figure out what's going to be at Mania, and some people get lost in the wind, and I don't believe that he deserves that. I understand, he just won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and respectfully, I've always called that the pink slip royal because most of the time you get in
Uh-huh.
that match, you're gone. And I hate that. And I hate that he won it. Like, this is the one time I would prefer, I'd be like, dude, no, stay away. So my goal is like, whatever big things they can put him in, I need it. I need him to be a Paul Heyman guy. I need him to go back to NXT and win the title again. I need him to go to TNA and do something. I just need him to be on camera at this point. Do something worth watching because I don't want to see him leave
Well,
out.
man, just remember, man, a lot of those guys that won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, it was during the Vince era, where
Yeah.
maybe Vince didn't necessarily have plans for those people, and maybe during the Paul Levesque era, he's gonna set a different precedent and a different standard for winning that Battle Royal. Yes, fingers crossed, because by Carmelo winning it and by his in ring work and everything he's been doing being so amazing. I feel like that was Triple H saying, "Hey, your time is coming. I want to give you something to let you know that we see what you're doing and our eyes are on you." As opposed to, I feel like maybe in the Vince era, and if I'm wrong, because I don't know this to be fact. This is just my opinion, but it just seemed like in the Vince era, it was just. And I don't want to diminish anybody who won it in that era, but it just seems like it was just something to do, something on the card,
Mhm.
and no thought was really given into it. I feel like by Carmelo winning it, it sets a different precedent because of all of the amazing work he's been doing up until this point, and then him winning something. But it isn't a championship because okay, it's like we're still building up, maybe a Jacob Fatu, and we're still building up these other guys. But we see you, and this is just something to let you know. This is a stepping stone and a building block that your hard work is not going unnoticed.
And you know what? I agree with that. And maybe it was just the trauma from the Vince era of this because you had people who won like Baron Corbin, which
Yep.
respectfully, um, I've never liked any of the gimmicks past the lone wolf gimmick. So I on my other show I always talk trash about Baron Corbin, but I would
You
love
ain't
to
like
wish
Happy
him well.
Corbin, man. You
I
didn't.
didn't. I couldn't. I was like, this is so cringy to me. And it was great. That's the point. It's
Uh,
supposed to be that way. So he did his job, but you had Baron win, you had Mojo Rawley win, which is probably the most significant one I throw out there. You had Braun Strowman win, and obviously he got let go and then he got brought back. You had Bronson Reed win, and thankfully Bronson, hasn't been let go. He just broke both his ankles
right.
doing one of the coolest splashes I've seen in a while. So you've had, tons and tons of people win. And, that's usually the joke around like the group is it's the pink slip battle royal. So what he could do, and I like the way you said that. Okay, cool. We're going to give you this, but that doesn't mean you're done. That doesn't mean it's over. It means that who knows? Because we have a draft coming up. So it could be
Mhm.
Carmelo Hayes versus Dominic Mysterio for the IC title, which I'm not mad at that. That'd be
Wouldn't be
great.
mad
Throw
at that at
Carlito in
all.
there as a gimmick. Let him, cause interference. Carmelo, you know, does his crazy cutter with him. Boom. I'm perfect with that. I feel better now than when I did earlier.
Yeah, man. Listen, you know how they say some people, when they win a championship, the title elevates the performer, right? But then you have some people where the performer elevates the championship. I think with this year's Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the talent elevated the accomplishment. I
Yes.
think that by Carmelo winning it, he elevated the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
And we will see. I can't wait. I want to keep him. What I love is that they're bringing back factions because I want to keep him with a group. I just want to keep him away from the tag team title scene because I think he deserves more. But I mean, even on top of that, we've had so many things happen this week in wrestling. We had Stephanie Vaquer make her Raw debut against EO, which was a wild match.
That was
So
crazy.
good,
That was crazy.
perfect. Those ladies deserved it. Then we saw, and I called it, Roxanne losing against Stephanie. So I believe Roxanne is going to be called up in the draft. We got to see what did you see on? Did you watch AEW this week?
You know what? I did not. Wait. Did I watch AEW? No, I did not get to watch. I didn't get to watch, but I did watch Raw and SmackDown.
I didn't watch AEW either. Um
Oh Lord.
I know Friday night. What stood out Friday night for you?
I think what stood out to me on Friday SmackDown would probably be Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu being given the ball, and now we're gonna watch him run with it. You know, him snatching the microphone away from Solo is the beginning seeds being planted of him being a babyface, the anti-hero babyface. And I hope they don't mess it up, and I don't think that they will. But I think that's the first steps of us watching him turn into an anti-hero babyface going into possibly a feud with Solo Sokoa. So I think that stood out to me. Watching the crowd chant Fatu, Fatu, even though it reminds me of Stone Cold Steve Austin back in 1997. Stone Cold in 96, 97 was doing everything he could possibly do to be a heel, but he was just so cool, relatable, and genuine that you couldn't help but to cheer for him. I think Jacob Fatu, has that same quality. I think that he could do some of the most dastardly stuff you could think of, but it's just his authenticity makes you want to root for him no matter what he does. So I think that that stood out to me that now they giving the ball to Jacob Fatu and now we're going to watch him run with it. I'm looking forward to seeing his run as the United States champion. And also though, I love how now we about to looks like we're going to potentially get LA Knight Drew McIntyre feud, and I think both of those dudes are phenomenal on the mic. I think they've been in the game so long that the in-ring work is going to be amazing. And to know that the winner of that feud is potentially going on to face Jacob Fatu, I feel like this is a domino of just dope storytelling. Like, because, okay, I'm going to love every minute of Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight. And then to watch one of those then go on to face Jacob Fatu is I'm really looking forward to the US title picture like for the next couple months.
So I love that you were like Jacob Fatu, Jacob Fatu. So, like I said in last week's episode, I work a lot on the indies. I travel, I go and help film, or I go and try to give ideas to younger wrestlers. I go try and do all that stuff. So, ironically enough, my home company, NWA New Mexico Duke City Championship Wrestling, was the last independent booking. Let me give them a little shout out right here. Ah,
Let's go.
was the last independent booking for one Jacob Fatu before he
Mm.
got signed. And so their pride right now, because they do their weekly show, was like he we barely saw him. Like it feels like they had barely seen him and now he's winning at WrestleMania. So it's one of those things that wrestling is like, man, I know that guy. And it's like you're seeing this dude holding a championship that Umaga held at the greatest stage on earth, and you're just like, good job. Like it's that weird thing, and you're talking. I'm talking to the owners, and I'm like, you know, what'd you tell him after when you were watching? Because one of them works for CBS Sports, so he goes and he does like media, and he was like, "Man, I didn't even bother trying to tell him yet because I can already tell he's probably busy." So I love that you picked that because that was a good little tidbit. Is just like Jacob Fatu from saying like he was watching outside of a prison cell window to an airplane window, and now no matter what he could punt, he could pull like what Randy did back in the day. He could punt Triple H in the head, and people are still going to be like, well, that's Triple H's fault.
Yeah,
That's all it is at this
that's a
point.
fact.
Like that's how you built it, and it was so organic too, because nobody they no matter what they said, we could feel that. And then people who have followed him for years are like, man, Oos, you deserve this. So I will agree with that. That was dope. Plus, seeing him in the 42 jersey, I was like, man, that's bad, dog. Be looking like
Hey,
Marshawn Lynch.
yeah,
Um,
man, I love it. Man, I think that when people come up organically like that, no disrespect to the NXT system, I think that is dope, right? But I think that people that come up on the indies are just built different. I think that's, just like with
mhm.
anything, the harder the struggle, the harder the grind, the more you appreciate it, the more you cut your teeth at your craft, and the more you gotta like Jacob Fatu say, the more you gotta get it out the mud. It puts that character in you as far as you appreciate the opportunity. Once you get the opportunity, you're not afraid of it. You step into it because you know everything that you went through to get there. So it's like that there's a certain fearlessness that comes along with, I used to have to sleep on my homeboy's couch, and then I barely had enough gas money to get to the show. And I love this so much that I wrestled in front of 5 people, and that was good enough for me. So now when you get to a WrestleMania, when you get a title, when you get these opportunities, I feel like you thinking to yourself, you're remembering everything that you went through to get there. You're remembering every time that you wrestled in a gymnasium where it was only like 7 people there, and you had to learn your craft enough to captivate those 7 people. And then you go somewhere else, and then you just have all of these different type of environments in which you had to learn and perfect your craft in. So by the time you get to that opportunity, you have the fearlessness. You have, there's a certain bit of, I worked my ass off for this, and now I'm about to hit it out the park. And I think that you can kind of tell that there's a different, even like and not to get too long-winded on it, but like think about Cody Rhodes prior to leaving WWE, and then the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes that came back.
Yeah.
There was a different type of confidence. There was a different type of I'm sure of myself. Like I'm not guessing about what to do. I know what to do. Even think about the Drew McIntyre before he left WWE, and then when he came back, it was a different type of confidence. He went out there, you know what I'm saying? He had to prove to himself that he really wanted it and he really deserved it. And what they say, they became undeniable. And I think that Jacob Fatu has spent so much time doing his thing on the indies that he's undeniable. And I think that the United States Championship is just a stepping stone to greater things that we're gonna watch him do.
I feel, and respectfully, I feel like with like I'm so worried because we do the draft. The draft is done every year, so eventually we're gonna get the pairing, and I feel like this year it's gonna be Jay on SmackDown with. Nah, they'll probably keep him on. See, that's the tough part. I don't know where they're gonna put Jay, but if they put Jay with Jacob and they're both title holders, I have that bad feeling that people are going to focus more on Jacob's title reign than Jay's. And that's the tricky part about this. Like you can't right now the pairings that we have are so good if you want to keep the world title the focal point. Because if you switch it and you put cuz nobody's going to care about Dom if he's on with John Cena. Like how they've traditionally done. They've switched the titles. Nobody's going to care about Dom, but Jacob's gonna outshine. Like that was the biggest thing when he first debuted. I was watching and I was like, oh no, he is the focal point. He's the guy. He is not. It's gonna be bad.
Yeah,
And
didn't you kind of like, in all due respect, but you kind of felt for Solo a little bit because you
yeah,
understood that WWE was putting Solo in a position for him to be that guy. But when you put him next to Jacob Fatu, like I said, there was just that level of readiness that Jacob Fatu had. And like I say, not discrediting Solo, you know what I'm saying? But there was just a difference in a way that Jacob Fatu captivated the audience where you like, oh shit, I think that dude is about to be the one.
Yeah. And so and that's the part too where the draft is coming up, and I love the draft season for WWE. I've always loved it. I love seeing the call ups. Is like now Trips has this giant bowl of superstars, and it's like, oh no, where do we put everybody? Because another great duo worked hard, not really in wrestling, more in just life. The Street Profits put on a
Mm.
hell of a match with DIY, with the guns, with the Motor City Machine Guns, and now it's to that point too where it's like, okay, SmackDown has the better tag division. We can agree on that. This should have been on Raw or on WrestleMania. They made them regret not putting this on WrestleMania. Um, and it's going to be these guys now, and it's like, okay, where do we put the tag team division now? Because we have Fraxium, who are probably going to get called up, and it's going to be insane. But what did you think about that TLC match?
You know what? I gotta go back and watch it. I'm always gonna be super transparent. I did a two a day on Friday and I was so tired. I watched the majority of SmackDown. I gotta go back. But a friend of mine told me that the TLC match was crazy.
Insane. I mean, we had Dawkins do a spear off the ladder onto a hanging Tommaso Ciampa, and it's like, we know what you did there, but they crashed through a table, which I was like, I like that little addition, not really
Yeah, I was gonna
softening
say,
it,
so they did the edge spot?
but with a table this time.
Oh shit.
Instead of falling straight to the mat, they were like, we'll soften it a little bit more. But overall, like, you know, it's a fun time in wrestling. Traditionally, this was probably the worst time in wrestling, and I've been on previous shows years back where I've said it. I'm like, this is where we get the lull, where backlash doesn't matter. Um, we're just waiting to get to Money in the Bank. And years before, when Money in the Bank wasn't a thing, we're just waiting for something at this point. And now we're heading into St. Louis, and we're gonna be like, oh, okay, what do we have now? We have a new women's United States champion. 10 years ago, somebody would have thought I was crazy for saying that. Zelina Vega winning her first single title, somebody would have thought I was crazy for saying that 6 months ago. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this. Uh, what'd you think about that? Because I saw that you gave praise.
Listen, man. I've been a mark for Zelina Vega ever since I'm not gonna gas it and say ever since I first saw her. I will say since the backlash in Puerto Rico.
Ooh, okay, yeah,
I knew that she was special then because I must admit, now that we're doing this podcast, I'm gonna start watching a lot more. I'm gonna start watching NXT more, right? Because she came
yeah.
from NXT, right? Or
She
did she?
she did. She came, but she was a manager. She originally came from TNA, but she was a manager
Really?
in NXT. Yeah, she was a manager, but everybody was like, No, she can wrestle."
Okay. So the first time that to me she got put on the map in my eyes was the backlash in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
And I'm like, yo, she is really dope. So from that point on, I was watching and I was rooting for her. Like ever since then, like, yo, why are they not pushing this girl? There was another time she had a backstage promo, and I can't remember who it was with, but she said something kind of slick, and I'm like, oh snap! I'm like, she got charisma too. So I'm like, she's gorgeous. Her in ring work is amazing. She's something we never seen before. We've never seen a Latina like get pushed like that. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And I think that that's something different. That's something new. I think we need that. I should say a Latina woman like get pushed like that before. And I think that just her in-ring work, her charisma, like her look. I think everything about her is a star. I honestly don't know why it's taking so long to push her, but I put a comment in my Instagram with her picture on there of her holding the United States Championship, and I just was saying, okay, with the title comes more eyes. And I think it's just like the Jacob Fatu thing, that now that there's a reason for Zelina Vega to be on TV every week, there's a reason for us to care. I think that she's going to hit it out the park. I think this is the opportunity that she's been waiting for, that she's deserved for so long. Like I say, I just got put her on tour and started being an advocate for her at Backlash, but I'm quite sure she had years longer of times that she probably was like hitting it out the park and just didn't get that opportunity. So I think that she is gonna knock it out the park. I think she's amazing. I can't sing her praises enough. I'm looking forward to her elevating to that next level and becoming the star that I've been calling it for a minute, that I've always known that she is. I think that Chelsea Green is established. I loved her reign as the United States champion, but she is such a amazing performer and a phenomenal character. I know that she doesn't need the title. Like Chelsea Green doesn't need the United States
Yeah.
championship for people to put eyes on her. But for a performer like Zelina Vega, I think that, not to say that she needs it to elevate her. I think that she just needs it for the people that aren't aware to take notice. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's like,
Mhm.
hey, who's the United States champion again? Zelina Vega. And then once she's on TV, she's going to do something amazing, say something amazing, and she's going to do something to prove to everybody why she deserves that position.
And so when she first came in from TNA, she was Andrade's interpreter because
Mm,
Andrade didn't really talk as much. That was kind of his gimmick. She was his manager. And she said things and we things back then where people were like, "Oh, she's going to be able to handle herself just fine." And now getting to see her do that, and then her husband is comes back that night and Black Mass is the Miz, which is wild that he was like, I don't know who you are. I was like, ooh. um
mm,
it's one of those nights that for their family and for people that don't get the opportunities, and I mean everywhere, it's like, okay, wrestling's cool again to this point. Like there is no small guy. Everybody's gonna get their chance. Now what she does with this title,
yeah.
ooh, that's gonna take a lot. It's gonna be a little tricky, um, because they haven't really put like a whole focal point into it. And I think one of the women they should put into that picture is either Asuka when she comes back, or
Mm,
put hell, even have Rhea go for one of the mid card titles and start making it to where these women are putting on great matches with a name that isn't going for the main event. I think that's what needs to happen because Zelina can hang all day. She's proven it before. LWO versus Judgment Day. It's perfectly fine. But now it's for a title. Now it's for a
mhm.
different meaning. And now it's for her first defense. I think Rio would be fun. I think that'd be a great match.
You know who I want to advocate for right now while we're talking about people getting put in position?
Yeah,
When she comes back, I need Kyrie Sane to get a push.
I
Kyrie
agree.
Sane has been amazing for so long, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if she's rubbing people the wrong way backstage. I don't know if it's a political thing, but she puts on amazing matches, and that insane elbow is the prettiest elbow. And I'm not just talking about because she's physically pretty. I mean, just like the way she
Hmm.
delivers it. Excuse me. It's, to me, Randy Savage's elbow and Kyrie Sane's elbow are the two greatest elbows, and I've been watching wrestling since the 80s. And I've never been as impressed with an elbow. I've never seen an elbow look as amazing as when Kyrie Sane throw it. And just like I say, everything else about her matches is amazing. So I just wanted to advocate for Kyrie Sane when she come back. And if they do give her a push, I just want this to be on the record for history's sake, that people can go back and watch this episode. Like, yo, Connor was riding for Kyrie Sane for a long time, but I just want to throw her name out there too. Now that I'm glad another one of my picks, Zelina Vega is getting her opportunity to hold it down. Kyrie Sane needs an opportunity to get that spotlight put on her.
So I want to ask, we're getting to the point in WWE, and people have talked about it before. Do we need another main roster show?
Uh, well, at that point, that would be a lot of wrestling to digest. It'd be Raw, SmackDown, NXT. Then you got, what is that show they got on Tubi? What is it?
Oh man, what's it called? Evolve.
Evolve,
I
right?
have not watched any of that,
Me
and I have some
either.
friends who have been on there.
That would be a lot of pro wrestling to keep up with. I don't know, because I'm not a big fan of SmackDown being 3 hours either. You
Same.
know, yeah, man. So I don't know. I don't know. I would have to say I like two shows. I like two shows because it makes, as a performer, I think it makes them have to step up to the plate. It's
Yep.
like there's only, there's only so many slots and there's only so many spots that can be filled. So I feel like if you try to accommodate to everybody by creating this third show, it doesn't force you as a performer, as a showman, to have to get better. Go out there, get over, and it creates a healthy competitive nature to go out there and get over. It's almost like if you create another show, that's like when you create like a participation award. I remember when I used to I sucked at the science fair. Like when I was a kid, we used to have the science fair, right? And I
Yeah.
never liked science like that. But they would give us like a honorable mention award so that we didn't feel left out. I feel like no, just give the slots to the people that deserve it. And by deserve it, I mean that bust their ass to get over, figure it out, like, you know what I'm saying, and get over with the people. But if you create a third show so everybody can feel involved, I think that it creates a false sense of entitlement that even if you're not as good as, or if you don't put in the amount of work as, or if you're not as over as somebody else, well, it doesn't matter. You could always be on the third show. No, I feel like get over with the people, do what you got to do, earn your way onto Raw or SmackDown, and I think that's my opinion on it, man.
Okay, I like it. I like it. I It's tough because you see a lot of these people. I agree with you. They need to put in the work, and wrestling is so much different than it was even 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where they can still get over without being in the ring. It just comes
Mm-hmm.
to social media and effort. So
Yes.
I do agree there, where they do have to step up to the plate. Maxine Dupree, Otis, and um Tozawa are a great example of nobody. If this was like, if they booked the way they booked the UFC, where anybody technically can have the main event spot on a show, and we got to see that with certain fighters, nobody would. I feel like nobody would pay tickets a few years ago to go watch those three separately, but together, now they finally did it. They do the comedy, they do the stuff, they make it work. Maxine has gotten so much more confident in her promos. And even last
Yes.
week when she did, I was like, damn,
Yeah, she
okay, all
killed
right.
it.
I was
She
like,
killed it
man,
last week.
that was wild seeing that. And even a year ago, people were saying that she can't wrestle, she shouldn't be here. And now she's like, now she has the confidence to say things, and we're like, oh, okay, that okay. So we're to that point where now I just feel like I wish wrestling was at the point, and it's slowly getting there, and I'm very patient, that if you're not being utilized, you can be utilized in a somewhere else. And it's sort of getting there. Like I said with Natty, she was on GCW at Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which was beautiful. Now she's going to be in NWA here in a few weeks, competing for their women's title. Carrion did an indie event for Chris Bay a few weeks ago. He did GCW. So I just, there's so much talent that I do feel like some of these guys just need to be under contract with WWE, have an on-call phone, say, "Hey, we need you right now. We need you to do this match or whatever," but also have the opportunity to go to, TNA, now Mexico, and get to do these events a little bit more.
Absolutely. I 100% agree, man.
Cuz it's cool. Like, I never know where anybody's going to be now, and I get excited now. Like, last week we talked about WWE Unreal, and we were like, man, they should not turn the curtain back, which I still agree with. I wholeheartedly
Right.
agree with that. I talked to the missus about it. She's like, we're gonna watch it, and I was like, I know, I don't have to like it, but I am curious about it. Um, but she's the same way. She travels with me. She loves wrestling, and she's like, it's fun now because she never knows who's gonna be where, or where we're if we're traveling, if somebody's gonna be there. Um, but I do think that with all the avenues that WWE has done lately, and all the things that they're doing with like the ID, there just has to be just something that they can do for their main roster guys who aren't getting as much TV time.
Mm, I agree. I agree. I agree with that. Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we all just want to make money.
That's
That's
a
it.
fact. That's a
We just
fact.
all want to make money. We want to
No, I
make money.
definitely.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
Oh no, I definitely agree, man. It's a beautiful time in wrestling. Just to piggyback what you just said about you never know where people are gonna pop up. I think the acquisition of AAA is crazy. Like you know what I'm saying, just to see that come together. I think that WWE partnering with TNA is crazy. I think in a good way. I think that I just don't want it to get to the point where WWE owns all of wrestling again
Yeah.
because I can remember the dark days after the Monday Night Wars when wrestling got horrible as far as storylines because
Hmm.
there was only one place to go. So I
Yeah.
think that it's a beautiful time in pro wrestling for sure.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny. Somebody was pointing it out to me. Um, and for wrestling fans, everybody knows you have one side and you have another. And typically, if you watch one side, you don't watch the other. Unfortunately, me, I watch all of it because I love it all. But you
Yes.
have AEW, you have NJPW, you have Stardom, and you have CMLL. You have WWE, you have TNA, you have Noah, Marigold, and now AAA. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, somebody pointed it out to me, and I'm like, okay, all right. So there are sides, there's sides forming. What's going to be the bridge? What's going to be the bridge that we finally, and we did have it with this company called FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling, out of Las Vegas. They had NJPW guys, they had AEW, they had WWE, they had GCW, they had them all, and that was for Chris Bay. Shout out to Chris Bay. I'm glad that you're feeling better, brother. um so it's to that point, and it's realistic, and it can happen, because nobody ever thought that would happen, and it happened in a venue out in Las Vegas. So I'm waiting for that day. I'm waiting for the day where we can see Will Ospreay versus Seth before they get old, and Seth versus Kenny before they get old. And you have a Stardom girl make a WWE debut, something she never thought she would ever get the opportunity. Comes down, walks down, goes into the ring with EO, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And we're slowly getting there. We're getting to the point where
We
we're
slowly getting there,
we're
man.
slowly getting there.
Slowly seeing Joe Hendry at WrestleMania. We slowly getting there. You know, they always say that pro wrestling is a mirror image of society itself, right?
Hmm.
And like I told you, I'm a movie buff and I'm a Marvel guy. And I think that, living in the multiverse era where we're getting to see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and what is my man name? Tom Holland and
Yeah.
like getting to see the different Spider-Man on screen, getting to see different variants, right? And seeing things in the Marvel universe that you never thought you would see. I think in wrestling that would be crazy if we got a multiversal WrestleMania where you got dream matches with all of these people from different promotions. And I know that probably will never happen just because the business logistics of all of it will probably be insane and out of control. But as a kid, like I said, that grew up in the Attitude Era, in the Monday Night War era, we always wished that we could see WCW versus WWE, and we never really got that. And I think that hopefully it seems like Triple H doesn't have an ego about stuff like that. like about working with other promotions and stuff like that. I don't know if the mudslinging has gotten too crazy between AEW and WWE, where we would never see like AEW people come into WWE and vice versa. But I think for the fans and for all of us, I think, like you said, it's certain dream matches that, if you really wanted to give back to the fans, like, you go ahead and make that happen because it would be historic.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you know, when I listen to these when I listen to these press conferences, or when there are parts where Tony Khan has openly admitted, like, I want to work with them. I don't think they want to work with us. And
Mm,
Triple H has gone, the door's open. It just has to make sense. Which
really?
which TNA, I think everybody's kind of waiting to see how this relationship is with TNA, cuz I mean, you have Joe Hendry make his WrestleMania debut. Nowhere in that sentence did I say, "Oh, Joe Hendry got squashed at WrestleMania." No, nobody cares about that.
Right.
You had Joe Hendry make his WrestleMania debut. And, I mean, even forget Randy at that point. I didn't even mention Randy. And like, that's
Yep.
the thing that goes crazy too, is I had a coworker, I had my boss who's trying to get back into wrestling. He comes up to me and he's like, "Who's Joe Hendry?" And I was like, I was on my computer and I was like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Who's Joe Hendry?" And I went, "I never thought I'd ever be asked that question." And I'm explaining to him, like, how he got over. He explains it in Chris Van Vliet. His song reaches 98 beats a minute, which I was like, "Ooh, that's cool." Which is why it's so catchy. I didn't know that. I'm not a music guy. So that's something you're gonna have to teach me.
Yeah, I
um
got you. I got you. I'll teach you about BPMs. I got you.
I'm gonna need help with that. So I learned that, and then I'm just saying, like, look at him. He's charismatic. He's got the look. Everybody likes him. And he was like, "Oh, so explain to me TNA." And so I explained a little bit about TNA, and he's like, "Oh, so this is an important thing." And I'm like, "There's yeah, this is like, to see, the fan that doesn't watch constantly will hop in every 3 6 months, and now they're like, oh, so there's another company more than AEW, more than New Japan." And I'm like, all right, cool. So it is getting to that point. Like I said, slowly it's getting there, to where we'll finally be able to say, okay, Okada, Randy Orton, that's one I've always wanted my entire life. Okada and Randy Orton, because Okada is the Randy Orton of New Japan, and Randy Orton's the Okada of New Japan, of WWE. And one day I hope that we get to that point.
Absolutely. And I'll just say this on that point. Um I think that it's a beautiful thing what WWE is doing by giving TNA a look like that, because, like you said, it's making people who wouldn't normally inquire about TNA or didn't even know that TNA existed. And because at the end of the day, we all love pro wrestling.
Yes.
Competition is good, but what we learned from the Monday Night Wars is it's not a good thing if only one company thrives in the end, right? So you want the young men and young women and the veterans of professional wrestling to always have somewhere to work. And you want them to have multiple options of where they can go apply their trade and where they can go work at. And I think that I had a friend of mine hit me the same way. Like, and he asked me who was Joe Hendry. And now he wants to know about TNA. So now TNA is building up a fan base because WWE has such a global reach that they can help other promotions. And I think, and all due respect to Vince McMahon, because it can't go overstated how much Vince McMahon means and meant to pro wrestling, right? But I
Mhm.
think the ego thing of wanting to crush everybody was kind of a bad thing,
Oh yeah.
because it's like, look what you do to the people that do this for a living. Now they have nowhere to work, they got nowhere to go. But if the industry as a whole is thriving, what do they say, a rising tide raises all boats or something
Yeah,
like that?
a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah. So WWE, if you're already up here and the tide rises, you're gonna always be up there. It doesn't hurt you to help them. It just hurts. I mean, it helps the industry as a whole. It helps professional wrestling as a whole. When there was a WCW and a WWF back in my day, Let's take like Sid Vicious, who was in WCW. He could go leave and go to WWF for a little minute. He could become like a different version of his character. He could get over there. Then when he goes back to WCW, he can help that promotion. It's like to have all of these different promotions, it allows, like Jim Ross says, it allows a wrestler to go get a fresh coat of paint. You know, because
Mhm.
when you see certain performers all the time on the same platform, right? It's human nature. It says familiarity breeds contempt. So it doesn't even mean that you don't like that person. It just means they need to go away for a while and come back. So
Mhm.
this, like with WWE helping smaller promotions, it allows the performers to be able to go away, get a fresh coat of paint, learn a new hold, as they say, like add some new things to their character, add some new things to their personality, learn new ways to work different audiences, then come back to WWE and then become a better performer than they were before. But if there's nowhere else that they can go, I think that that hurts the entire industry as a whole. So I look forward to watching WWE continue to do things like that and establishing more relationships with other promotions, because I don't think it helps anybody if you destroy promote. That's why I'm not a fan of wrestling tribalism. Like people that like AEW
Mhm.
hate WWE, and people that like WWE hate AEW. Listen, as an old wrestling fan, you do not want either to go out of business. You do not want any of these promotions to go out of business. You do not want there to be one sole promotion. Trust me, you don't. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that that's amazing what Triple H and the people in the office at WWE are doing, because I think when the industry thrives, I think it trickles down, causes a trickle down effect to every promotion.
Oh, 100%. And one more shout out to my home company, Duke City. They were Duke City before they became NWA New Mexico, and that's something that I learned very early on in my indie career was the tribalism is still even down there. And he has that mentality where he's like, oh, you have a cool, he wants everybody to come. Everybody's welcome to do this. Everybody should be here, not because this is necessarily the best, but it's because this is the gate. This is a way for you to get noticed now with the NWA and all their stuff. And so I do agree with that, and I think that that also helps in indie wrestling, because if there's just WWE, there's not going to be a lot of indie schools. There's not going to be a lot of indie promotions. There's not going to be, because we used to have that back in the day. And then AEW kind of helped some of these schools get set up, and now they're thriving and now they're doing better. So I do agree with that, brother. I that makes a whole lot of sense when it's coming to where wrestling is. And I can hear it in your voice too, of just like the trauma of like, oh yeah, we only had one good promotion for years.
Bro, I got PTSD, man, because I love pro wrestling no matter what. I love the art form. I think it's the greatest form of entertainment. And so those years, there was such a distinct difference between when there were two major promotions, even three, when there was WCW, WWF at the time, and ECW. I think each promotion was inspired by the other to become better. And if you only have one place, then what's inspiring you and what's motivating you to put out the best product? What's motivating you to listen to the fans? Nothing, because you don't have to, because you're aware that you've cornered the market on this particular form of entertainment. So I think that we as wrestling fans had to suffer through some terrible times storyline wise through those years. Now, of course, there was some good things, but a lot of that stuff was, I remember, hey, I'll tell you this. I remember at one point I thought to myself, I thought because there was only WWE at the time and it was
Yeah.
really, really bad, I remember I used to say to my boys, I said, man, I think wrestling itself is going to get so bad that it's not going to be on TV at all, and
Hmm.
it's only going to be able to be watched on the internet, because the fan base is going to drop so low that it's not going to be able to fill arenas anymore. I really feared that. Like, I don't know if do you remember that time period where like WWE was really bad, and
Which
like to
part?
the
Because
to
I
the
grew up
time,
during the I grew up during the John Laurinaitis people power era. Is
uh-huh.
my biggest like, I hate this so much.
Yes.
Is Yeah.
Do you remember when the McMahons and Triple H came on TV and apologized for
Yes.
how
I
bad?
do.
Okay, around that time, this
Yeah.
is when I was thinking, like, damn, I'm like, this is about to be the end of wrestling as we know it. Like that, like it's over. So I just don't want I never want professional wrestling to get to a point where it dies out, because I do think it's such a beautiful form of entertainment, and I it's provided me so many amazing memories, like, and inspired me in so many ways. Professional wrestling has inspired me musically, because I think Jim Johnston, who created the majority of WWE themes from the 80s until like maybe 2016, like his musical chord progressions inspired me as a musician. It inspired me as an entertainer, as a showman. Watching people on the microphone be able to express themselves with confidence, whether it's Dusty Rhodes, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Rowdy Piper, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, like all of these people inspired me. So it's like I think that there are, and even the athleticism, and it's just so many things that can inspire you and motivate you. The good versus evil morality play that you watch on a weekly basis. I think it's so many aspects to professional wrestling that society needs, that I never want to see it go away. So I really hope that WWE continues to do things like partner up with TNA and do things like put more money behind AAA so that it can continue to thrive, for generations and generations.
Oh, 100%, dude. I like how you said that too. It has inspired you. And um a little thing about Jim Johnson is he did a interview Sunday before WrestleMania week, and everybody's talking about it because he they were asked, somebody asked him, obviously asked him the $1 million question everybody wants to know: would you ever make wrestling music again? And he said, yeah, nobody's ever asked me to anymore. And
That's crazy.
I'm like, really? Like,
That's crazy.
that's
You know
hard
what
to
I
believe.
but you know what I think it is? The thing that sometimes we don't take into consideration is when people say that there's a lot of politics involved in things, right?
Hmm.
So you have to think about whoever's making the music for these companies now. Jim Johnston has the gift and ability to completely make whoever's there now obsolete. So
True.
if you're insecure within your spot, you don't want a Jim Johnston to come in because you're afraid that he might be better than you at your job. You're afraid it stops becoming about the fans or what's good for business. Like sometimes in show business, especially, it starts to become, well, I don't want them around because then they might outshine me. I don't want them to come around because maybe they know more than me and they'll make me look incompetent. So it's like, I can believe that he hasn't been reached out to because maybe the people that are in those positions, and I'm not saying this based off of anything that I know personally,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that sometimes within show business, people can get so caught up in maintaining their spot that they'll make decisions based off of um, with selfish intent, as opposed to doing what could actually be best for the product itself.
Oh yeah, I remembered that because I was like, oh, we're gonna have to talk. I gotta talk to John about this. But it is funny. It's to me, it's like he saved face. He definitely saved people because people could have reached out and he could have been like, well, it's because of these politics, or nobody did and nobody's in trouble for it. But it is that weird thing, and I've learned it about the politics in wrestling. I have my other show, Downtime in the Ring. We've tried to work with some of these major promotions, and we haven't been able to. And all it is numbers. It's not even them watching the episodes or seeing the quality of interviews that we give. It's just, oh, you got this many, all right, that's cool. And I'm like, you know what, that's fine, because one day I'll get there. And I believe it. I 100% believe it. So
Absolutely.
seeing this, it's just, it always makes me laugh about this business. Just the politics into it, and I'm like, all right, it's everywhere. It's even in wrestling, you see
Man,
it.
listen, there's no business like show business, and professional wrestling is in that. It's show business. Music, movies, television, sports entertainment. It's all under the umbrella of show business, and it all has its political demons that you gotta face, man, when getting involved with it.
Yeah, 100%. On that note, I think we are good for this week. I feel like we have talked a lot. Next week is going to be interesting because we will start heading towards Backlash and Double or Nothing for
Let's
either
get it.
for either company. So we'll start heading towards that way. Any final thoughts on this week's episode?
Final thoughts. It is always a pleasure to do this, and I hope whoever is watching right now, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Y'all leave us your comments and thoughts in the comments. Y'all leave us your thoughts in the comments below, and we enjoy doing this. We enjoy talking pro wrestling with y'all and with each other, and it's always a pleasure. D, like, let's keep it going, man.
Let's keep it going. We will see each and every one of you in our next videos.
Yes, sir.